Hey everybody, it's time for another QueBIT Coffee Break. My coffee choice of the day is an iced French vanilla Colombian coffee. Yeah, I like it. Pretty good. Hey Dan, what's your coffee choice of today?
It's warm up here in Boston, so I'm drinking a cold brew here. I think it's a Kenyan beans. So we're gonna give it a shot today.
Nice. Wow. You know what? You're up there among the top tier of coffee drinkers. I'm excited to have Dan Mier, a Pigment Solutions consultant with us today. Dan has been on both sides of the xP&A space as an implementation consultant and as a solutions consultant and manager for some of the leading xP&A platforms. During this time, Dan has become a thought leader in the area of strategic workforce planning. In fact, during the recent Pigment FP&A week, Dan and I co-presented and demonstrated the Pigment solution for workforce planning. We'll provide a link to this hour-long session if you want a deeper dive into this topic. As with the recent supply chain challenges industry has experienced, we also see significant challenges in our workforce and workforce planning. Dan, can you give us a coffee break overview of the Pigment strategic workforce planning solution and how it fits into the xP&A journey?
Dan, I'd love to. And where I love about workforce planning is how, it really hits every area of a company. It hits every business that's planning. It hits really the strategic side of it when you're doing that annual plan and the finance is working on that long range plan. Obviously, it has a heavy impact with our HR organization as they're really focused on making sure that we have the right retention. And when we look at it, we really break it off into four key sections. That first we were talking about, aligning that strategy with that finance team. And that's when all of our leaders together, they understand, what the business is trying to understand, what they're trying to do, and they create that strategy. They layer in a demand piece to see, if we're going to have this strategy, do we have the right people in place to execute on this plan? We need to understand, who do we currently have? Are they contractors? Are they full-time employees? And then last thing, we start to look at, are we paying them correctly? Are we paying them in market terms? Because we don't pay them enough, they're going to leave. But we have to compensate in a way that's motivating to those employees. So if we go through a lot of customers that we work with and prospects that we talk to, their focus on workforce planning is very focusing on the operational workforce planning. And that's our finance team is focusing on that area. They're trying to understand, who do we currently have employed? When are we giving merit increases? What are some of the assumptions we're making based on their pay grade? But when you click it out to the right here, we really see a lot of how HR starts to work with that workforce team. Understanding how an organization is supposed to be structured, looking at who's going to leave, building out different sides of models around attrition. And then lastly, that compensation piece we talked about up front. So modeling out, equity, compensation benchmarks, and building out incentive compensation plans for those enterprise teams and those sales teams. But the business and finance team really starts to impact this when we look at the left side. We look at aligning that, that annual operating plan and that strategic plan with our team, with our team. Once finance builds that out, we have to align that with, what's our capacity in our distribution centers? How are we aligning our shifts if they're union or if they're non-union employees? How do we make sure that we're within the regulations there? Or for specific projects that we're working on, how are we making sure that we're staffing adequately to achieve those projects? So when we look at workforce planning, we look at this as the demand and the supply side of workforce planning, aligning those business objectives with, empowering the right people to make sure that they're in place to make those decisions and to really help us execute on that long range strategy. What are your thoughts there, Dan?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I mean, being a supply chain guy myself, the demand and supply makes perfect sense, especially when it, not only from a materials our demand standpoint for finished goods, but it makes perfect sense for workforce planning. There's got to be demand and supply, and balancing that in a system like this makes total sense. What do the logos at the bottom here mean?
Those are some of the areas that we integrate with. We think about, to have this end-to-end process, you have to have a native integration with a number of solutions. So with Pigment, we can integrate directly with ERP to be able to bring in all that financial data. We bring in a number of solutions for an HRIS. But not only do we want to bring in that HRIS system, we want to marry that to an ATS system as well to make sure that not only we can understand who's there, but also the demand side from the finance systems, but also that execution of the hiring process with that ATS, and try to marry all that together within Pigment so we can stay aligned with what our plan and strategy are.
Yeah, this is, I can see where workforce planning is key in an xP&A journey. So, hey, thank you for that. This is fantastic. I'd like to add that according to Gartner, by 2024, 70% of new FP&A or financial planning analysis projects will become XP&A or extended planning and analysis projects, extending their scope beyond the finance domain into other areas of enterprise planning and analysis. Certainly, workforce planning is key to fulfilling this XP&A vision. So, next time we grab coffee, let's talk about financial consolidations and close. I'll have a good old friend of mine join us to be able to see how that particular topic fits into this XP&A journey. By the way, if you find this topic interesting and would like to schedule a one-on-one 15-minute coffee break focused on your business and the challenges you face, contact Dan or Dan, The Dan Show, at dbarrett@qubit.com or daniel.mier@gopigment.com. We'll send you a $20 Starbucks gift card and schedule a call at a time convenient for you. Dan, thank you for your time today. Look forward to working with you as we go forward.
Great. Thanks for spending time with me as well, Dan.